schools, houses of worship, sidewalks, grocery stores, concerts, our nation's capital. It feels like no place is safe. The painful effects of domestic terrorism ripple through our country. Americans are left picking up the pieces and searching for answers.
I'd like to sit down with these people and one on one and have a conversation with them. Because I want to know, why are they so angry? Why do they hate so much? Because nobody comes in this world a racist.
Homegrown terrorism in the United States is on the rise. Within the last year, over 60% of domestic terrorist acts were motivated by white nationalism.
It's domestic terrorism that you need to be concerned with. It is domestic terrorism that we all need to understand.
We need to know our history so we won't repeat it.
Black Americans have been targeted by racially motivated violence since our nation's birth.
My name is Lisa McNair, and I am the younger sister of Denise McNair, one of the 4 girls killed in the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in 1963. I always knew that I had a sister, and my sister was killed by white people because white people didn't like black people.
On a summer Sunday in 1963, Addie Mae Collins, Carol Robertson, Cynthia Wesley, and Denise McNair lost their lives in a violent attack on their place of worship.
They were killed because people didn't want a segment of our population to be able to vote, to integrate, and go to school together.
The bomb was planted by 4 known Klansmen as an act of retaliation against the church, which was a known rallying point for the civil rights movement.
And I mean, there were people who were forever changed by those murders that day. My mom, my dad, never be the same. Never.
In the wake of the violence, the community ached for justice.
Each one of these cases is a minor miracle.
14 years passed without any legal recourse. Robert Chambliss was convicted for the murder of Denise McNair in 1977. Andrew Sheldon worked as a jury consultant for the prosecution against 2 of the 4 bombers when the case was reopened in 2000.
Nobody expected any of these cases to be anything other than another acquittal.
During the civil rights era, Birmingham was a hotbed for Klan activity, and justice moves slowly when the system is rigged against people of color.
I mean, you don't sort of walk into the DA's office and say, I'd like to talk about prosecuting this case, because the DA is going to smile and then go to a Klan meeting. You know, so you're taking your life in your hands to even ask for justice.
Former Senator Doug Jones served as the prosecutor in the 16th Street bombing cases when they were reopened. He came of age during the civil rights era, skipping classes to watch the first 16th Street case in 1977.
It was a really emotional announcement of the verdict. The most important thing is to try to give some kind of sense of healing for the family. It's not closure. I never use the word closure when it comes to these cases, but it does give a sense of healing.
After 38 years, the families of the victims were finally given a chance at peace.
And I just cried and cried and cried and cried. I just couldn't believe that finally, after all this time, we get to be treated right, you know?
What we learned in the Birmingham case was that there were new groups cropping up that called themselves Southern Pride groups, which is just an evolutionary term. You know, they didn't wear hoods. They wore, you know, other things, perhaps combat fatigues, and trained in militia.
Just as during the civil rights period, white nationalists today feel threatened by the increased diversity and push for equality in our country.
It is fear that their way of life, whatever that might be, is going to be changed, and it's going to be a forced change on them. These 43 states that are filing all these voter suppression laws are fearful that they're going to lose political power. And when those two start feeding off each other, something bad's going to happen.
Instead of burning crosses under the cover of nightfall, white supremacists now meet online and flaunt their hatred in broad daylight.
And so the parallels to me are just striking.
It looks the same. If you studied that time and that period, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the Klan today, all of that is the same. And what's also the same is they're being sanctioned by our government officials.
The recent attack on the U.S. Capitol is a sobering reminder of our not-so-distant past and how those in power perpetuate oppression.
You know, you look into the number of law enforcement people, active law enforcement people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. You know, I mean, examples are just all over the place. The way we look at ourselves as a country has got to change.
As our country stands now, we are a house divided, unable to reconcile with each other and with our collective history.
Well, the first thing is to somehow erase the assumption that we're in a post-racist world. So the second piece of it is we need to promote anti-racist behavior.
We really need to do more listening. We need to do what Atticus Finch said in To Kill a Mockingbird.
You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view.
Get in another man's skin and walk around in it for a while and see their things from their point of view. More of that has got to happen.
So think about who your best friends are. Now, are any of those people Black or people of color? If they are not, then your circle is too small. So you need to find people who are different from you and learn from them.
In America, we confront domestic terrorism regularly, and it leaves behind countless victims and grieving loved ones who are forced to reconcile with their loss.
You know, someone said once that we live parallel lives. Her murder has just always been a part of my life. I mean, she's in every aspect of my life. You know, in a lot of ways, my life is representing her and making sure that she did not die in vain and that her memory is kept forever. So Denise is with me all the time.